Cameras on before we get started.
Teacher, I have problem with my connections. For today, I can turn on my camera.
Okay, Zachary, that's fine. That's okay. Thanks for telling me.
Thank you, teacher.
Okay. The rest of you guys though need to make sure that they're on. Okay, guys, so Mariela, Cami, Miriam, Milenka, Ale, please make sure that your cameras are on. Okay, guys. So today we'll continue with the listening section. And in fact, we'll be looking at the following part. So last class, we went through the conversations. We've said that in the listening, you get two types of tests, right? You get the conversations first. It's a conversation between a student, a campus worker. They're discussing a problem that the student has. And later, you're going to be getting these lectures, which will be a bit different. Now you can have 3 or 4 of them, and each one has 6 questions. So let's take a look. All right, sorry. Okay, guys. So first of all, do you guys know what a lecture is? Can anybody tell me what a lecture is? Anyone? Okay. So basically, let's start with what a lecture is not. So a lecture is not a lectura in Spanish, so it doesn't translate that way. It's actually not something that you read. It's actually something that you listen to, we could say. Something, I think the best way to define this will be a class. So it's like a class, it's the explanation of a topic. So in this case, you will have a college class. So this is a college class, something, a university class, and it's on an academic topic. So the professor, which is a teacher from university, will be talking about an academic topic, okay? So now this could be anything. It could be one of the sciences, the soft ones, the hard ones. It could be biology, history, literature. It could be on physics, maybe on technology, the environment, different sorts of topics. Now, how this will be structured, that's the key part, okay? That's the key. That's what you need to be able to find out when you're listening to it. Now, of course, during the first 30 seconds, you will have like a short introduction to the class or to the topic. Now, in the introduction, you may have different elements. Sometimes you have a short definition on what the topic is. You have the main idea explained. And I would say that the most important part of the introduction is understanding how everything's going to be organized. So you have like a short overview of what the lecture will be like. Okay, so let me give you an example. If maybe this is about, I don't know, let's say it's about perhaps solar power. Okay, so I'm going to start the class by saying something like, hey class, today we'll be looking at solar power and we'll be going over the types of solar power we have, or maybe the advantages of solar power, or maybe a brief review or a brief history in how solar power became a thing, or maybe some theories on solar power. Okay, so that's how the introduction may be looking like. Sometimes you have a definition on what the topic is. So solar power is defined as this and this and that. That's the intro. So pay attention to that introduction is quite important because it will give you that information on how it's going to be organized. And then after that's done, you'll listen to the topic being broken down into different subtopics. So you will have some number of subtopics. And that's where it gets a bit complicated because I can't tell you how many of them you'll have or how it's going to be organized or what they will be. I can give you some idea, some examples. So for example, a very common one is this theory and evidence. So it's usually when you have something on biology, physics, one of the sciences. So maybe you have like Charles Darwin theory of evolution, and then you have different pieces of evidence supporting it, you know? Maybe you have cause and effect. So if it's something like pollution or climate change, maybe you have its effects or its causes. I don't know. You usually would be able to identify those with the transition words like therefore, as a result, thus. That's usually for cause and effect. When you have phenomena, discoveries, events, what have you. Sometimes you have like steps of a process, and that's more like a recipe. So maybe you have a sequence of events, maybe you have something about biology, like the embryonic development. So maybe you have, okay, so first the heart is developed, afterwards this happens, and finally this other thing happens. I don't know. Sometimes you have like a comparison of two or more things, like capitalism versus communism. Its differences, its similarities, right? So you have different elements in there. Sometimes you have something like a biography. So it's all sequence of events, or a historical note, the same. All right, so those are some ideas. But in general, you will be seeing a lot of facts, examples, everything that's detailed, basically. So any theories, studies, statistics, and so on. All right. Now, the downside of this is that most of the questions that you'll get will be detailed questions. So I don't know if you guys remember, but in the conversations, you had different types of questions, right? Here in the lecture, you will still have different types of them, but the majority of them will be detailed. Maybe you have one main idea, one inference question, but most of them are going to be detailed, like what was the name of this person, or when did Sylvia Plath's father die, or what was the name of the first book that Sylvia Plath ever published, or, you know, so how many people are there in this country? I don't know. Okay, so you have those kind of questions in there, which means that it is way important for you guys to take good notes, to practice note taking. Okay, so I think that's the strategy here. If you really want to improve or get a higher score in the listening, then you gotta practice note taking. Of course, practice answering questions, but most of it, I would say, is note taking and understanding at the same time, you know, because this is about your comprehension and skills. So listen to anything academic you can and practice taking notes and understanding at the same time, because it's hard, okay? It's not that easy to do that multitasking. And finally, one more thing I gotta say, it could be a lecture with a single speaker or a more dynamic class. So what I mean is sometimes it's just the professor speaking. You have no students involved. It's like the professor were reading something. I would say that's a bit more robotic, less enjoyable. So it's not that easy to follow. And sometimes you have a class in which the professor and the students are discussing something, and that's quite like more enjoyable. It's like, you know, but you gotta be careful though, because you need to make sure that you identify who says what, because sometimes the students will say something that is not necessarily true or correct, you know, and maybe you are asked about that and that may trick you into choosing a wrong one. So in general, some more thing I could say is like, pay attention to how the professor speaks, not just what they say, because sometimes the professor will emphasize on something, or maybe repeat something, or ask questions about something. Whenever that's happening, it's probably because it's an important idea. So you better take notes on that, pay close attention to what they're saying, and yeah, because that'll probably be part of your questions. So those are some things I can say. I don't know if you guys have any questions so far. Do you? Okay. I already gave you some tips for the listening in general. I'm not going to repeat, but some things I could add to that, maybe pay attention to transition words. As I was saying, it's going to be hell of help. So they show you, you know, how everything's connected. If you have anything like now or on the other hand, or let's move on to, or in conclusion, so that's going to give you a good idea of how everything's going or being organized. If you have in contrast, you know, it's a comparison. You have two different ideas. If you have furthermore, it's just adding something else. If you have like similarly, then it's similar. So if you have in conclusion, as a result, it's cause and effect. So make sure that you know what they mean, you know how to use them, and that you pay attention to them when you're listening to them. Okay, guys. Think like a student. So it's like you're in the class, you're part of the class, you're a student in there, and you're about to take a quiz on whatever it is that you were seeing. So think that way. You need to really take notes like you were part of the class and about to take a quiz. And one more thing that's kind of obvious, but I gotta say it anyhow. Make sure that you forget about everything that you know. So this is something that some people actually forget. So maybe, you know, it's about solar power and maybe that's your area of expertise. Maybe you are an expert on solar power and you know a lot. But what they're asking is not for you to have knowledge on that topic. You know, you just need to answer the questions based on the lecture, not on something that you know from some other class or some other way. So yeah, so if they ask something like what's the reason why solar power is not implemented yet, so you don't have to know that by yourself or maybe look up into it. You need to remember from the lecture. So everything you need to know is going to be mentioned in the lecture, right? So forget about everything you know other than what's mentioned in the lecture. Okay, guys, so I think that'll be it. I don't know if you have any questions by now. Everything okay? As for your notes, the best piece of advice I could give you, of course, practice, but also make sure that you organize your notes in the same order that the professor uses to organize the lecture. So if you have like cause and effect, maybe pollution and its different effects. So maybe you can draw some arrows. If you have advantages, disadvantages. If you have a historical note, a biography, maybe you can draw a timeline so that you have everything in order, organized, everything in place, you know. So, and you don't miss any information because it's easier to miss information when you're not being organized. So if you write everything in a single line or in like a paragraph and everything's in the same way, then you're gonna end up missing some important things. But if you write like bullet points or you use symbols, then it's more likely that you catch all the important information. So we're actually gonna be doing a short exercise on that today. So then now that's it. No questions then before we look at the example? Okay, guys. So now I'm gonna play this audio file. You listen to the lecture. It's about facial recognition as you have instructions.
Teacher, maybe your internet is bad because I can listen you.
Me neither, teacher.
Me
Neither do
neither.
I, teacher.
Me neither.
Yes. Yeah, guys, you were right. I think it was my connection. So is it better now? Can you hear me?
Yes, now
Yes.
we can.
Yes, teacher.
Okay. So what I was saying is we're gonna do a practice set. We're gonna listen to this lecture, and I want you guys to take notes on it. Now, after we're done listening, I'm gonna ask you all to please take a picture of your notes, and you guys will send it to the group, to the WhatsApp group, so that we can take a look at them, maybe compare, do some comments, and then we'll discuss what this was about. All right, guys? So is that okay? Did you have any questions? I'm sorry, I think maybe because my connection didn't get to hear something. Is everything okay about what we've said? Anything you want me to go over, maybe?
Teacher, after that, we will have to answer some questions.
Yes, we will do
Okay.
that together.
Yeah. Okay. Thank.
Okay, so for now, just listen to it, take some notes, make sure that you understand, and pay attention to those details, okay? It'll be part of your questions. So let's go.
Hello, class. So today we're going to be looking at facial recognition and to the different sorts of technology that go into facial recognition. Now, before we start, can any of you tell me where we can see facial recognition in action? Yes, you at the back?
In the TV show Las Vegas?
Well, you're right.
Yes, Lucia?
Teacher, I'm sorry, but I cannot hear. Not very well.
Me neither, teacher.
It's,
I had
it's
problems.
coding. It is coding it.
Okay. All right, I'm so sorry for that, guys. Let me try and fix it. I'm gonna switch Wi-Fi. Maybe that works. Hold on. Okay, guys, so I'm gonna try to play it again and let me know if it's better, okay? If it's not, just somebody can raise their hand and I'm gonna try and play it again.
Hello, class. So today we're going to be looking at facial recognition and to the different sorts of technology that go into facial recognition. Now, before we start, can any of you tell me where we can see facial recognition in action? Yes, you at the back?
In the TV show Las Vegas?
Well, you're right. In this popular TV show, the security team pull images of the individuals from their surveillance system and run the image through a database to identify the person. In that way, all the card counters and blacklisted gamblers can be escorted from the poker tables. It looks easy on TV, but in the real world, facial recognition is a tricky business. So let's start with the more traditional methods of facial recognition. Every face has peaks and valleys, and these can be translated into what is termed as nodal points. Each face has about 80 of these, and they include distance between the eyes, the length of the jaw, the width of the nose, things like that. These measurements can be used to create a numerical code, and this is called a face print. This system is good because it can compare two-dimensional images such as photographs. The problem is that images have to be controlled. The person has to be staring straight at the camera. There must be no variance in facial expression or lighting because any variance in these parameters reduces the effectiveness of the system. So they had to come up with another way. So the new way of recognizing faces is by using a 3D model. It has better accuracy allegedly. 3D imagery detects distinctive features in the face such as the curves of the eyes, nose, and chin, features which do not change over time. These are measured at the sub-millimeter level. Interestingly, a 3D image can be taken not only from a live scan, but also from a 2D photograph. And another good thing about the 3D system is that it can recognize a person from a range of angles. The person doesn't have to be directly facing the camera as in 2D technology. Once again, the system gives each individual a unique code, a set of numbers that represents the face. It's easy to match a 3D image to another 3D image if you already have a 3D image in your database. It's less easy to match 3D images to 2D images, But what they can do is pull certain measurements from the 3D image, such as the eye and so forth, and use this to convert the 3D image into a 2D image, and this image can be more easily compared to the 2D images in the database. But it's not just the measurements which can be used to recognize faces. There's also a new development called skin biometrics. This uses the uniqueness of skin texture to get its results. The process takes a picture of a patch of skin, and the system will then identify any pores, lines, moles, blemishes, and other features of skin texture. This method can be used to identify identical twins, something that cannot be done with the 3D technology. Its other advantages over 3D imagery are that it's insensitive to changes in expression, blinking, smiling, and so forth, and can compensate for changes in facial features, such as the growth of a beard or wearing glasses. It's not perfect, though, as it is sensitive to lighting conditions and poor camera resolution, and if there is glare from the sun. So, now we've covered the main types of facial recognition, we'll move on to its uses. Now, has anybody here...
All right, guys. So what we'll be doing now is we'll be taking a picture of our notes, or I'm also going to do that, and send it to the group. All right. Please, you could do it.
Picture.
Yes. You guys. All right, so I already sent mine. I think I got one. Okay, I got Rogers. And let's see. Okay, guys. So okay, everybody did that. Okay, guys, so we'll be looking at your notes in a bit. Let's leave that there for a second. And before we do that, okay, before we do that, okay, so could anybody tell me what the lecture was about?
It was about facial recognition. It talks about how actually we are dealing with 3D images and 2D. I don't know how to say the other one.
Okay, all right, that's true. So facial recognition, 2D, 3D images. And what are those? 2D, 3D model, what are those?
Kinds of technology.
Exactly. So yes, those are the types of technology or the types of facial recognition that we got. So how many of them do we have?
3, teacher.
3, great. The 2D, the 3D, and the other one, I believe it was the skin biometric one, right? So that's it. That's how the lecture is organized, right? Facial recognition, 3 types of them. Is there anything else? Any other way in which the lecture is organized? What about the 3D, what about the 3 types of facial recognition? What does the professor say about them?
in the first type of facial recognition, and Professor mentioned pixels that the cameras analyze pixels and they some notes to make a face print, and then compare with some photos, but the face has to be straight or direct, so it's hard to have good results.
Okay.
And that's one. The first one. That was the first
Okay.
one.
All right, but that's great. That's nice. So what you're saying, and I like that. So you're saying what the 2D can do and what's bad about the 2D, right? The thing it doesn't have good results because it must be faced on the camera. So that's perfect. I think they do that for the three of them, right? They say, okay, the 2D model can do this, but it can't do this other thing. The 2D, the 3D, these are their advantages, but it has these shortcomings. And the same with the scheme biometric one. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that every single one is like an improvement of the previous one. So the 3D is like an improvement of the 2D one, and the scheme biometric is kind of solving the shortcomings of the 3D one. So maybe those are some things we can say. Okay, and the reason why I'm asking that is because it will be nice if you guys could, organize your notes in the same way. So let's take a look at them, see what we have. All right, so here we have something. Now, one thing I could say about this is, first thing, I think it's too little information, okay? So I don't know, it was a long lecture, almost 4 minutes, and you have a lot of info in there. You have 3 types, its own characteristics, some definitions, problems, advantages, disadvantages. So I'm sure that I don't know if this is going to be enough in order to answer all the questions, unless, of course, you remember. But again, when you have, maybe in this one you didn't have so many details, but I guarantee that there are others in which you will have numbers and very specific dates. So it'll be harder. It's better to practice that. So we have something facial recognition, TV show, we have the example, that's nice. Facts, we have nose, identify, okay. So we have something, but you're missing, the 3 types, its characteristics. So I don't know if this is going to be enough. I will try to take notes of every single part. Now here we have something, facial recognition. We have the example of the TV show. We have, I think this is the general concept of the face having 80 normal points, I guess. The 3D model and the scheme biometric. Okay, so we got the names of the types, but it is important to have a description of each one of them, okay? Because I assure you guys that's what they're going to be asking for. So what does the 3D model do, or what can it do? I don't know. Okay, guys, so let's look at some other more. Here we have your orders. All right. So facial recognition, technology in action. We have the example of the TV show, database, recognized person, face print, 3D model, identical twins. Okay, again, we have something, but it's not that organized, because identical twins, what about them? Like, is that part of the 3D model? Is that something that the 3D model can do, the 2D model? Unless you remember all those details, it will be very hard to answer those specific questions. What else? Sorry. Okay, so here we have something. All right, I like that this one is a very complete one. It's like a very complete one. We have something, a bit of the intro at the beginning. We have, okay, the example of the TV show. And then we have some bullet points. I like that. Scheme biometric one, the 3D model. I think this is the 2D model. Okay, so this one looks nice. I would try to have something that makes me know, like, okay, this belongs to the scheme biometric one, and these are the good things and the bad things about it. I would like to have something like that, But if you remember visually where each part belongs to, then that's okay, you know? But this is like a reasonable amount of information that you should have. Okay, so here we have this one. I like that this person is using like a lot of symbols and arrows, and it looks hell organized, you know? So it has the, nice, it has the 2D one, the 3D, and the scheme biometric one. And it has some characteristics. So that's really cool, but I will try to have more. Okay, and let's see one more. So here we have something. Okay, great. So facial recognition, the intro, and then we have the 3 types. I like these signals that you used. Some characteristics as well. All right, so this one's really cool. Okay, guys. So I'm gonna show you mine, and it's not perfect, you know, maybe it's not that understandable either. And it doesn't have to be, you know, as long as you get your own notes, then that's okay. But the thing I wanna tell you is that try to have the same order, you know? So make it as visual as it could be. I have something here about the intro, facial recognition, the example. And then I noticed that the professor said, we have different types, the 2D one, some description. And then I noticed how the professor was saying, okay, so the good thing about this is that we can do this and this and that. So bullet points for that. However, their problems are, and then bullet points for that, okay? So those are the happy and sad faces. So it doesn't have to be this way, you know? You could do it vertical if you want. Let me show you an example of somebody from another class. I think it was this one here. He was doing something like this, which I think, again, is quite organized. Even if it's not in the same way I did, it's perfect, right? Because it's everything is there and everything's organized as well. You have the 2D one here, their problems, you have the new way, bullet points, and the scheme biometric way, okay? So just try to have something a bit more complete, organized in the same way, and it'll be okay. Yeah, so any questions so far before we try and answer these questions? All right. So let's see what we have. Okay, so here's the first question. I don't know if anybody could please read that.
Letter C, teacher.
Okay, all right. The question is, letter C, you say, in a casino. And the question is asking for, where does the TV show Las Vegas take place? Shopping mall, police department, casino, or crime? All right, so Jokabet says in a casino. What do you guys think? Is that okay? Is that right? Do you agree?
I'm agree.
I agree, teacher.
All right, let's see. Okay, that's perfect, in a casino. So that's nice. I don't know if they exactly say it, but I think I saw this in some of your notes, something about poker, gamblers, poker tables, I guess. So it must be a casino. And it's Las Vegas, you know? What can you expect? All right. So what about the second one? Could anybody please read the question?
Where is a face print?
So it's a definition, something that I would try to have on paper. So what's a face print?
Is letter A a code which identifies a face?
Okay, Camille. Do you all agree? Joel, what do you think?
I think it's A too, but maybe B.
Maybe. All right. Karina, what about you?
I will say B.
B, distinctive curves in the face. All right. And Orlando?
Sorry, I wasn't here when the lesson was, so
Okay.
I couldn't hear.
Okay. Ale, what about you?
Um, I'm still thinking. I'm between a letter A and letter D.
Letter D. Okay. Those are actually good options. Okay, anyone else? Let's try A and B. I think were the most repeated ones. So let's see. A was the one. Nice. A code that identifies a face. Now about D, I think D is a tricky one because I think that the number of nodal points in the face is translated into a code, and that code is a face print. So it wasn't such a bad option. But again, you know, the number of nodal points isn't a face print. A face print needs to be a code. So it's the code that identifies a face. Now, distinctive curves in the face, they do mention something about that, but that's not the definition of a face print. I think they mentioned that when they're talking about the 2D model. So I think that's of any use there. But here, a face print is a code that identifies a face. And option C, a 2D image of the face, is just a drawing, a photograph, a picture maybe, but it's not a face print, is it? Okay. Now let's look at question 3. Will anybody read that, please?
Identify 2 problems with 2D facial recognition from the list below.
Okay. So A, it's not effective if the picture is dark. The person in the photograph must face the camera. Facial curves change over time, or nodal points cannot be measured. We need 2 problems. Take a look at your notes. What do you guys think? So I think somebody already said something when you were summarizing the lecture. Somebody said something about 2D technology that's here.
Letter B and probably D.
B and D. The person must face the camera and nodal points can be. All right. Okay, let's see. Roger, what do you think?
I think it's letter B and C.
Okay, B and C. And Mariela?
Letter B. I think letter B.
Okay, everybody agrees with B. That's correct. And the other one, Mariela?
Letter D. Letter D.
Okay, let's see. So no. Let's try C. Okay, so it must have been A. It's not effective if a picture is dark. So B is for sure, it was for sure an answer. The person must face the camera. That's something that somebody said at the beginning, I remember. So yes, that's one problem. And the other one is lighting. So it's not effective if the picture is dark. About D, nodal points cannot be measured. I don't know. If you remember, I think nodal points are measured, right? And that the number of nodal points is translated into a code, we've said. I think we actually have 80 nodal points, I think. So I wouldn't say that. And again, I don't know. It really depends. So those are 2 problems with 2D facial recognition. Okay, so here we have question 4. Can anybody read?
What is the problem with the 3D technology?
Right. So again, what's a problem with 3D technologies?
I think it's letter C.
All right, it's impossible to match a 3D to a 2D. Bianca, what do you think?
The letter C also, teacher.
Okay. Bianca, what about you?
Letter D.
Letter D, all right. And
Teacher, I'm not sure, but I think that is letter A.
A?
Yes.
Okay. Let's try C. I think that's the most common one. D. It's D. Cannot distinguish between identical twins. About C, that's not such a bad one. I think you always have like something like that, you know, two that could be and two that are definitely not. So I would say that A and B are probably the ones that I wouldn't choose. Now C, they do talk a lot about matching 3D images to 2D images, but I'm not sure if that's actually impossible to do. I think there's a way to do it. I think first they need to convert the 3D image to a 2D one by using the measurements and stuff, and then they can match the 2D to the 2D. So it is complicated, I guess, but I don't know if it's impossible. And now about option A, remember that you can also kind of use the information that you have from the previous questions or any other thing to kind of come to certain conclusions. So you know that one of the problems from 2D was that the person must face the camera, right? And you know that 3D is supposed to be better than the 2D one, solve the problems that the 2D had. So I don't think they're gonna have the same problem, you know? So yes, you cannot distinguish. Now about D, the thing about D is that I remember they mentioned this, but they don't do it when they're talking about the 3D one. I think they're like, when they're talking about the skin biometric technology, they say, so the good thing about the skin bio is that it can distinguish between identical twins, something that the 3D wasn't able to do. So they kind of do that. But anyhow, you know, if you're taking your note, then you just go back to the 3D and write it down. So, okay. All right, so now we have the fifth question in here. Can anyone please read that?
Which two elements below can be measured by skin biometric technology?
Okay, so what can be measured? The curve of someone's chin, the texture of someone's skin, existence of lines from the face, or the distance between the eyes? We need two.
B and C, teacher.
Okay, B and C, the texture of someone's skin, the existence of lines, all right. Patricia, what do you think? No? Ale?
I think it's B and D.
B and D, okay. And Miriam?
I will go for B and C.
B and C. Okay, let's try those two options. That's perfect. The texture of someone's skin, the existence of lines on the face. All right. And it makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because it's, at least you should have a general idea of what each one is about if you're paying attention. So the 2D, I think it was about the shape of your face. So it's like the distance between the eyes, the length of the nose, that kind of stuff. The 3D technology, it allows you to like, I recognize you, I guess, from different angles, from features that don't change over time. And the skin biometric one, as the name suggests, is about the skin. So I'm guessing it should be the texture of your skin, the existence of lines on the face. The distance between the eyes, they do mention that, but it's for the 2D one, right? It's about the shape of your face or the curve of someone's chin. Again, those are like features that are not really related to the texture of your skin, you know, or to the skin. So think about it that way as well. Try to be logical. And finally, we get to the last one. Which of these faces will the skin biometric system be unable to identify? So we have these 4 options. We have 4 pictures. Try to look at your notes. Take a look at them. See what you have.
I think it's letter C.
See, because of the expression, because she's smiling?
Because I took note about that. The skin biometrical is insensitive to blinking and smiling.
Okay, sensitive or insensitive?
Insensitive.
What does that mean? What does that mean then?
That it won't recognize. It probably won't recognize it.
I'm not sure. I would say that it's actually the other way around. That if it's sensitive, that means that it won't recognize you if you're like blinking or smiling. But if it's insensitive, that means that they won't care. I mean, it won't affect, you know, the system. So it's gonna be able to recognize you anyhow. I think. I don't know what you guys think. Is that okay? What would you say? Do you think it's C?
Yeah, you're right. I understood it wrong.
Okay.
I think it's letter A.
A?
Yeah. Yes, teacher, letter A.
Because it's
Letter
dark.
A.
Yes.
Okay, probably. Let's see. So yes, that's correct. It's dark. And it's the only one that you cannot appreciate the skin, right? Because you know the other ones, if you look at the texture of the skin and the existence of lines, then I would guess it will have to be A. Okay, guys. So as you can see, most of the questions were about that. First you have something about the intro, a definition in there, the example. Then you have write off all the problems or the advantages of each type. So it is important to take notes in that way so that you know what you're looking for, you know where to find it. And the only way to do that is by paying attention to how the professor, or those red flags, hints that you get, At the intro, for example, we're going to be looking at facial recognition and different sorts of technology that go into. Now, then they have the example. So let's start with a more traditional method. So that's the first one, right? And then you have, this system is good because it can do this and this and that. The problem is, and then you have the problem. Then you have the next one. They had to come up with another way. The new way is a free model. You have another good thing about this. So you have some things. And then you have the biometric one, right? It's not just the measurements. There's also new development. And then you have its other advantages over 3D imagery is that, or it's not perfect though. And then you have the shortcomings that it has, you know? So pay attention to those. Obviously, you won't always have this. It's not always going to be types, advantages, disadvantages. Maybe any type of organization, you just need to try to figure out what it is, you know, and or organize everything based on that. So I don't know if you guys have any questions about this, about the lectures. What do you think? No questions? All right then, so, okay. So please, before you go, don't forget the daily survey. Till you're done, you can leave. And thank you for joining. I'll see you next week. Hope you have a nice weekend.
Thank you, teacher. Goodbye.
Bye, teacher.
Bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, bye.
Excuse me, teacher, do you have the link for this exercise?
Yes, of course.
Can you pass it in the chat?
Yes, I will. Hold on. All right, there you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.